I left my husband over his phone password. Here's why. I found myself at a crossroads in my 6-year marriage when my husband, the man who once made me the happiest girl in the world, changed his passcode and staunchly refused to share it with me. This act marked a significant turning point in our relationship, one that ultimately led to my decision to leave. To provide some context, I had access to his phone's passcode before. While I didn't make a habit of constantly snooping through his digital life, I couldn't deny that I occasionally ventured into his personal space to see if anything was amiss. Unfortunately, the few times I did peek into his phone, I discovered things that shook the foundation of our marriage. These discoveries ignited a series of confrontations between us. One instance that haunts my memory was finding a note about one of my own cousins that he seemed particularly interested in. It was a revelation that left me questioning his loyalty and commitment to our marriage. Another painful incident occurred when I learned that he had been showing off an Instagram picture of a woman to his friends, praising her loyalty to me. The irony was cruel, as it became apparent that he wasn't as loyal as he had appeared to be. The issue here wasn't so much about catching him in the act of cheating but rather the mounting distrust and hurt that these discoveries fostered. He seemed oblivious to the emotional turmoil these incidents caused me. From his perspective, it was likely that he didn't see any wrongdoing in his actions since he had never been caught in outright infidelity. However, this perspective led to a decision that would prove to be a tipping point in our relationship. In an attempt to avoid the recurrent and painful confrontations that arose from my occasional forays into his phone, he chose to keep his passcode to himself. It was his way of maintaining a semblance of privacy and reducing the constant tension that had been building between us. But this decision, as well-intentioned as it may have been, had far-reaching consequences. I remember the night I left him vividly. It was a heart-wrenching moment, sitting alone in my car, tears streaming down my face, and my heart heavy with the weight of my decision. Leaving him wasn't something I wanted to do, it felt more like he had left the door open for me, a clear sign that he no longer wanted me in his life. One of the most challenging aspects of my situation was the isolation it imposed on me. I couldn't confide in anyone about the emotional turmoil I was experiencing. You see, I had lost touch with my friends over the years because my husband had persistently asked me to approach them about the possibility of having a threesome. This request had strained my friendships and left me feeling increasingly isolated. As I sat in my car that night, my mind raced with questions. Is he okay? What could he be doing? Is he talking to someone new? These thoughts consumed my every waking moment, and it had only been 2 nights since I left. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and hurt. Perhaps the most painful part of this ordeal was that our little girl hadn't heard from him either. The absence of her father in her life weighed heavily on my conscience, but I couldn't bear the thought of subjecting her to the constant turmoil and uncertainty that had become our marriage. In the end, my decision to leave was driven by a desperate need for emotional healing and clarity. While my husband may have made me the happiest girl in the world at one point, the trust issues, emotional turmoil, and isolation had taken a toll that I couldn't bear any longer. As I drove away that night, I knew that the path ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to find a way to heal and rebuild my life for both my sake and the sake of our little girl.